You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. I'm your host, Alex from TechnoBlock, and today we are joined by Wes from SynkedUp again. Why? Because you guys love the content that we're putting out here. Our last episode, which was 2023 industry benchmarks for pricing, expenses, and profits, was our most popular one of the year. And I understand why. It's because it's giving you the information that you need to know. Is your business on track with the top guys, or are you somewhere towards the bottom of the ladder? And what do you need to do to turn that around? One of the great things that Wes put together for us, all the listeners, is a free offer where there's a link in the description of that show. You click that link, you can book a free consultation call, no strings attached, no requirement to buy anything, where they'll help you work out your budget, what's going on with it, and how can you turn things around if you want to make sure that you're as profitable as possible. And given the current economic situation, I think that's a good idea. Now, what more pressing matter, what are business owners in the hardscape industry paying themselves? This is super important information. And again, if you're going to listen to those numbers in a couple minutes and wonder how on earth do they get to that number, I'm way under that. Well, you should probably take advantage of that free offer from SynkedUp. And that link will be in the show notes again for this episode. Super valuable information. I'm excited to dive into it. Welcome to the show, Wes. Let's get going.
Thanks, Alex. It's awesome to be back, and I can't wait to kick this off. This is these are fun conversations to have.
100%, dude. So we're talking about what owners are paying themselves, and how are you in the position to be able to share this information with us?
So we build budgets for hundreds of companies all across North America. Which ultimately what that means is we know what they're charging for their man-hour rates. We know what they're paying themselves. We know what they're paying their staff, which is why that's what we based the previous one off of, the one about man-hour rates. And we're just going to do similar again on what owners are paying themselves. And I'm excited to talk about this because there is a lot of people out there working harder than they would work for any hourly job, and they're not paying themselves anything or barely anything. And that is honestly, that's the battle we're fighting. That's what we're here to solve.
Yeah. And I think it's shocking sometimes when people say how much they pay themselves, and then you look at how much people earn working for someone else, and you're like, you're working literally double, if not triple, the amount of hours per week, and you're paying yourself a third of what some of these people earn. And they're barely qualified to earn that much. So like, we need to stop shortchanging ourselves as an industry. People have money. They're willing to invest in projects. And if you're taking all that risk of building a business, you should be paying yourself appropriately. And that doesn't mean that you should be aiming to be a millionaire in year 2. But if you do want to be a millionaire, you can be if you structure your business the right way and you run it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many times, this tug of war, this back and forth in this topic, it's not because customers won't pay it. I mean, you can always point to stories where it was that, but it's not, by and large, it's not because customers won't pay it. It's not because of any other external circumstance. It's literally between the ears.
It's because you won't charge it.
That's right.
That's it. It's crazy, but it's true. Okay. The other thing I want to highlight is, contrary to a lot of other stuff that's out there floating around, the big difference is this information is actually from the businesses. A lot of stuff that gets published out there in magazines and blogs and stuff, it's from surveys. People put in whatever the hell they want. This is the real information from the real numbers, from the real businesses using your platform.
Yep. That's
right.
So
let's get into it.
Right on. So, I kind of break it up, just to keep it simple, into 3 bands. And just like we did for the man-hour price benchmarking thing. And what I did is I took a band for a business that's, say, in the $150K to $500K in gross top-line revenue. And I have an owner's salary kind of benchmark for that. And then from $500K to $1 million, I have another one. And then from $1 million to $5 million plus, there's really no ceiling. There's outliers out there that are off the charts, so to speak. But I have a band for that as well.
$1 million to $5 million plus is the last one you said?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive on-demand Hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out Hardscaper.com. What are the main differences between those three? Before we get into actual numbers, but like
the main differences as I see it is literally just how mature they are as a business. That's the way it should be. There are times when there's a business that's technically been at it for 20 years, but all they did is repeat year one 20 times. They're not actually a 20-year mature business.
They're not growing. They're not climbing the ladder. They're just in a cycle.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so,
which is fine too if like you just want to have like a certain lifestyle and keep things nice and chill, but the main takeaway from what you just said is if it's based on business maturity, that means that like you can just keep growing and growing and growing. And the reason why is because the industry keeps growing and growing and growing. The market keeps growing and growing and growing. I mean, we can sit here and look at this year and say, well, it's not necessarily as strong as the last 3 years. And that's true. But it's a heck of a lot stronger than 2019 or 18 or 17 or 16 or 15 or 14 or, you know? Okay, it spiked, but where we landed is still way ahead of where it used to be. So it's going to continue on that upward trajectory.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be shy about investing and figuring out ways to grow.
In our economy, or like even with a year, like there is ups and downs. Absolutely, there always will be. But even in North America, if you do what you say you're going to do and you do a good job of it, you will grow, unless you intentionally choose not to and choose, like you said, a lifestyle path, which you totally can. But my thing is, I don't want you to own your job. I want you to own a business and not have the business own you. Like, and if you repeat year one 20 times. You bought a job. Yeah, you made yourself a job. Yeah, that's right. And so you can be a 500K business with 2 people and do really well for yourself, you know. But you don't want to be a 500K business with 8 to 10 people. I can tell you that right now. You know, and there's people out there like that. You know.
Yeah. Okay, so our three bands: 150 to 500, 500 to 1 million, 1 million to 5 million. Main difference being business maturity. Other than, you know, there's always outliers who they're caught in a rut. They don't know what to do, or they're perfectly happy just staying stable. Yeah. But those are the 3 segments of businesses based on what you're seeing as data.
That's right. And the other thing I would say about these bands that I created and the salaries I'm going to give, I'm saying this is what you should be gunning for in this band. If you're not there today, if you're in the 150K to 500K revenue and you're not in the salary band that I'm going to give you, that's what you should be gunning for. That would be appropriate. Yeah. Okay. And if you're over the band, well, that's fine, but you could potentially be starving the business of growth capital. Okay. Potentially. But it's ultimately you own the business.
Yeah, share some of your money back with the company.
Yeah. And you know, another thing to clarify as we dive into this is the numbers I'm giving you is not the business profit. This is the salary the business is paying you. The business needs to make a profit after it's paid you this salary. Yeah. The business's profit is not your income.
Two different things.
You can do with it what you want. You can take it as income if you want.
You can pull it as dividends, yeah.
Exactly.
But that's a different thing. A salary.
That's right.
That's right.
And the way I think about it is a owner gets paid in salary for what they do for the business. Like if I'm a field ops manager for my business, my salary is tied to the value I contribute to the business. The net profit dividends that I get as an owner is the cash I get as an owner. It's not tied to my actual contribution to the business.
What job functions do I operate or deliver for the company? That is what my earnings should be dictated by on paper.
On paper.
As the owner, I have free reign to do what I want, but like if I'm building out a budget and trying to figure out what to pay myself and what to pay others, like that's where you start.
Yep. And what when we build, like you said, to the free budget consultation, when we build a budget for people, like when somebody comes on and says, "Oh, I'm not paying myself anything," or "I just take the profit out of the business and that's my income," we will literally
hang up the phone.
No. we will literally put at least a bare minimum salary for these bands into the budget, and we tell them, you do what you want with the money. I'm not saying you have to take it as salary, but I'm not going to give you a man-hour rate or a price structure that doesn't account for your salary.
All right. Okay, so what does this look like then?
Okay, so 150K to 500K in revenue is set at 50K to 75K in owner's salary. That said,
again?
It was 50K to 75K.
All right.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about this band because I do not condone staying in this band forever. To me, this is a temporary place. I want to get through this band as quickly as possible. This is literally the startup pains in the first 1 to 3, maybe max 5 years of growth. It can't stay there forever. If you're staying there forever, you may as well go get a job because 50 to 75K, you can easily earn working a job without the stress.
And with benefits.
And yeah, exactly.
And you can take a vacation and the business doesn't grind to a halt.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
And it's
so get a start there, but get the heck out of there as fast as you can.
Exactly. And I listened to a short clip from one of Dave Ramsey's things a few weeks ago, and a business owner was on there asking advice for what he should pay himself. He was paying himself $100K. The business was doing $3 million, and his wife thought he should get paid more. And Dave was like, "Your wife's right. Not only because the business takes something of you from your family, and your wife or your family needs to be able to not be also sacrificing. Like the money needs to be flowing to your family unit or your loved ones or whatever. Like you don't want to be paying yourself bare minimum
and then not being able to provide
a job.
Yeah. For everything you have to sacrifice, there has to be the reward not only for you but for the people that you are responsible for. And you're taking on all that liability, all that stress. It's not just financial burden. There's physical stress. There's mental stress.
Yep.
There's a lot with running a business. And if you're not pulling in enough to at least try to offset. Now, there can be a whole other discussion about, will money offset those things?
Yeah, money doesn't fix everything, but it sure shouldn't be in scarcity in this.
It should be making your life easy to offset.
That's right.
For all the stress you deal with here, when you come home, it should be easy. We got to fix the roof? Okay, we'll fix the roof. No problem.
Exactly.
Oh, the kids need braces? The kids need braces. Okay, whatever.
And to that point, Dave said his last line on that answer was like, and put your phone down when you go out to dinner with your wife. Pay yourself more and put your phone down. He was saying, to this point, there's two aspects to it.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of that one. Okay, so that's segment 1.
Yep.
Segment 2.
So
$500,000 to $1 million annual revenue business.
Yes. So this is a range where a 3 to 5 man company can stay for long term. It can be a lifestyle business, the 500K to $1 million in revenue. And if you're like, hey, I'm not looking for aggressive growth. I'm not looking to manage 10, 20, 30 people. I just want to do what I do. Like I'm a craftsman and I love it. And I want to do well. This is where you can stay long term if you opt to. And that is with a 75K to 120K owner's salary. To me, I could see this even being higher, but definitely not lower.
This is what the industry is showing. This is the reality.
That's right.
You could pay yourself more in that bracket, like you just said.
Yep.
But again, it could be a short-changing thing. It could also be how much are they pulling out as dividends.
Yes.
But because for me, that number is still pretty low.
It's not rich. No. It's not rich, and I'd like for it to be higher. At this phase, if you're in this phase, like you still have the break a leg factor. If you're the craftsman with a lifestyle business and you have your core team of 2 to 3 to 5 people, if you as the owner are still heavily contributing to the business and you break a leg, the business struggles. And so if I was in this stage looking to settle in at this stage long term as a lifestyle, because that's what I want to do, I would be investing into my number 2 and my number 3 heavily. Pay them at least these numbers as well. Because
that is important advice.
Yes, because you have to have these solid number 2 and number 3 people in your team at this if you're going to make this lifestyle business thing work. Otherwise, something goes wrong, you're going to get sucked into chaos, and it's not going to be good. So your best insulation to that is having really good core people and make their life so good that they're not going to want to go anywhere else.
That is a little bombshell of wisdom there. Because it can look all fine and dandy, but, break an arm, break a leg.
Yep.
What happens? Production grinds to a halt. What's happening? We're behind schedule. Reputation takes a hit. 2-3 years. What the hell happened? Now he's working for someone else.
Yeah.
I thought he had a good thing going. Seen that countless times.
Yeah, and
so that's invest heavily in a number 2, a number 3 person. I'm a firm believer of this too. Like everyone needs their right hand.
Yeah.
You can have your own, but if they don't have one, then their capacity is limited, and that means your capacity is limited. So if everyone has a right hand, then you can keep growing. You can keep moving forward.
Yep.
At the pace that you want, and not at the pace that the organization is permitting.
That's right. And at this stage, like I know stereotypically, hardscape owner operators don't love to do documentation or process building or systems and all of that. It's
so that's the key to get out of there.
Yeah, it's like going to the dentist. Nobody likes to do it, right? But I'm telling you, investing into that number 2 and number 3 and doing the hard work of transitioning from you just have the magic potion inside of your own head to make decisions, but what framework is it that you make those decisions around and how you make them is key, that your number 2 and number 3 and the rest of your team understand. Because if you're the magician and you're taken out, or you decide you don't want to work as much anymore,
show's over.
Yeah. That's right.
Pretty boring magic show.
And it's kind of like the Jocko Willing thing. Discipline is freedom. Like if you have the discipline to build the systems and processes, it feels like extra work and I don't have time to do this and this is awful and I hate it, but it will give you freedom.
Yeah. That is probably the biggest opportunity that exists between the months of, depending on what part of the world you're working in, but if you're in a northern climate, November to January, end of January. So you have, let's say from Thanksgiving to Canadian Thanksgiving's next week. So not that one, but from like US Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day. That's kind of your window.
Yep.
And other than that, you got to be selling, you got to be prepping equipment, you got to be hiring and training people. So it's not that big a window, and there's holidays and other stuff in there. So there's a lot of temptation to, speaking of discipline, there's a lot of temptation to take you off track. But if you don't have the documentation, the processes and everything that you need, that is your window to do it, to sit down with your number 2 and your number 3 and go through that stuff.
Yeah.
And why you need to do that with the 2 and the 3 is because they have different levels of understanding of the things. And you're thinking big picture and all the details because you built this whole thing from scratch. But your number 2 and your number 3 may not. Or you think only big picture. You forget those details because they just happen now because you have a good 2 and you have a good 3. But they need to hire people eventually. And that's why you need to have them in the room and you're sitting down at the table and you're going through, when we do this, what are the steps? Write them down. Review them. You're going to find you missed 5 of them. Do it again. You missed another 3. Okay, there are 18 steps to doing this. Yeah, there are. That's what it is. And that's chapter 1 of the company book of all the things that we need to get done.
Yep. You nailed it.
And then there's different departments as your business grows too. So like, on your bookkeeping side, you're going to have to do the same thing. On your marketing side, you're going to have to do the same thing. And as the business grows, it seems daunting. It's like, whoa. Start with the field stuff. I think that's a smart thing because all the accounting and all the other stuff, there's tools like SynkedUp that help me with that. There are also companies like Cycle CPA, who we had on the show earlier this year, that you can just pay them and they'll take care of all that stuff for you. So it's like an employee, except a fraction of the cost and without all the benefits and without all the labor burden and all that stuff. So there are other solutions, but in the field is where the magic happens. So you got to discipline that and get that nailed down.
Dude, you 100% nailed it. I didn't know you were going to go there, and I was going to make sure that it gets said on the podcast here, but that's 100% true. This whole systems building stuff is not just you as the owner coming up with it on your own and then shoving it under their nose. You to have a good number 2 and number 3 and have them be vested into the business's success means that you're telling them, you're sharing with them the bigger picture. You're bringing them in and asking them, hey, this is what I think. What do you think? Here's what I think the process is. Is there anything you think that should be improved or any problems you see with it? If you make it a team effort, not only will it be a whole lot easier and more fun for you, it'll be a lot more rock solid, and the team will take ownership and there'll be buy-in.
Yeah. It is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
It sounds like bullshit, but it's not. It's like, oh man, like, okay, we're in this together. I'm not trying to figure this out on my own. Like it's a complete mindset shift that happens as soon as you bring other people in and you start sharing with them the challenges that you're trying to solve. And you'll be shocked how people come up with solutions. And it's just because they're looking at the problem from another angle.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many times, like, one of the things we deal with at SynkedUp is maybe companies weren't tracking their time in any, form of consistency before. And so when they come into SynkedUp, oh, this is a new thing. And it's so key to give your employees the big picture as to, hey, don't just shove the app under their nose and say, here, track time, figure it out. I don't know how it works. Bring them in, share the bigger picture. Hey, we all want to make more money, right? Find common ground. Yes. The whole room's yes. Okay, great. So for us to make more money, we have to know our numbers. And for us to know our numbers, we have to track so we can not repeat mistakes over and over again. For us to track, here's how we're going to do it. Here's the app, clock in, clock out, It completely flips the script on, you go from resistance to, yeah, I support this.
Yeah. Yeah. Not magically. Like you still need a lot of reinforcement, positive reinforcement, and you need repetition.
Yep.
Bringing it up and bringing it up again. And like every time you have a tailgate talk or a team meeting or something, there's always like a little component for that change that you're trying to implement. Change management is definitely something to look up if you're listening to this stuff and got to bring that into your business. That's a whole other other podcast, but
that's a really big deal. And honestly, when people say, I can't find any good help, I think we need to look inwardly at ourselves and be like, how am I doing change management? How am I painting the path of growth for my people? How am I, like, what am I doing for them? Because I think more often than not, sure, it's hard to find good people, but they exist.
They exist. Exactly. They're not these fictional creatures that you have to go off to some mystical land to find. Like they're there. They're there. And if you find them and you put them in the right environment, then they become what you expect them, and sometimes even beyond what you expect.
Yep.
But you can also take an A player, a superstar, drop them in a shit show of an environment, and
they're gonna leave.
They're going to leave.
They are going to leave. No doubt about it.
They're not going to deliver. You're going to be, what the heck? I thought this person was going to be a superstar. They're disappointing me. Friction starts, and they're like, you know what? I don't need this. And they bounce, and they go somewhere else, and they rock it over there because the leaders there understand that, sometimes it's not all about what the other person isn't doing. It's what am I not doing to make their life easier so that they can perform.
Amen. And if you want to dig deep into that psychology, go read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
That's a good one. Okay. Man, we're going all over the place. Let's come back. All right. Okay. So the third bucket, the $1 million to $5 million and plus annual revenue company.
So in this bucket, you can optimize for whichever outcome you want. You can either really maximize your own personal income, like your cash, or you can maximize or optimize as much time freedom as possible, or even a blend of both. But you have some options here as to which way you want to swing on that. Like maybe you just want to work 20, 30 hours a week and don't want to bust your tail all the time. And so, again, salary being tied to what you contribute to the business. Maybe you take $100,000 salary and just have a lot of time freedom. Or maybe you're like, no, I'm going to work 50, 60 hours a week like I always did because I love it and that's what I want to do. I don't want to change my lifestyle around that. And I'm going to crank it to 200K plus. So those are the two numbers. So 100K to 200K in owner's salary is in the 1 to 5 million range is what we're seeing. And I say 200K plus because it depends what you want to do and it depends how mature your business is and how profitable your services are. There's really no real ceiling. It's just a matter of if you can sell the work at the pricing that your budget is set at, then you can kind of make it whatever you decide you want to make it.
How many business owners are paying, or maybe not how many, maybe this isn't the right question, but I'll ask it this way and then you answer it with whatever makes sense. How many guys are paying themselves more than 200?
Not very many, very few. I mean, if you take, there's people that are making more than 200 if you take their net profit and dividends and their salary for sure, but in salary, very, very few. It's very rare.
And what's the highest one you've seen?
It's they sometimes they sometimes skew the numbers on purpose, so they'll
because
lower
they have other people in the system.
They'll lower their salary, but then I'm just going to take it in net profit distribution. So I don't know how accurate this is, but in the I've never seen one over 250.
Yeah. Are there tax implications there too, or? That's
a good question. I actually don't know the answer, a clear answer to that off the top of my head. I'm sure there is though, because anything you do through a salary, I take that back. It depends on how your business is structured. There is no one answer to that.
Yeah, tax specialist on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. So the 50 to 75K salary, that's typically what you find in a company that's doing 150 to 500,000 annual revenue.
Well, it's what we make sure their budget is holding. There is
you're seeing less.
People,
there's
a lot of people that are showing up to us in that range, literally not taking a penny. Their wife works and they live on
where you should be.
Yes.
If you're bringing in 150 to 500,000 of annual revenue, your salary should be somewhere between 50 and 75. Yep. But this is not a place you want to hang out for a long time, because at that type of income, regardless of pulling in dividends, you could go get yourself a job working for someone else in the same industry or in a different one without all the stress. And I'm not trying to discourage people from being business owners in the industry. What I am trying to do is discourage complacency and selling ourselves short, because there's a lot more out there for everyone. And that's why you need to figure out how. And we have a ton. I mean, we were at episode 60 something, 70 something. Every episode we've covered so far is telling you how to get out of there.
Yeah.
To get into at least that second level, which is that 3 to 5 man company, running revenues of around $500,000 to $1 million. And the key here for that business to survive at that level or to grow. So it's non-negotiable. At this level, you must invest heavily in a number 2 person, a number 3 person, and processes and documentation of those processes. If you do not do those 3 things, invest in the people, have the processes, document and circulate, communicate, all that stuff. If you're not doing those 3 things, this business is standing on one leg in a hurricane. It's not... It could work, it could not, but everything is relying on that one leg, which is you surviving.
That's right. And you don't want to leave your family in that kind of risk. It's not just you that's assuming that risk.
Yeah. And then the third one, when I get past that $1 million mark, I've got myself to a level where I'm in control now. Provided I've done those other things, obviously. Yeah. I can optimize for how much do I want to pay myself? How much do I want to work? Because at this level, I should have a team in place. That the business is a business. It's not me.
That's right.
I'm not, like you said, the magician. The business runs and it goes as far and where I want it to go. And that's at a high level. That's how this number stuff breaks down.
That's right. And I would also say that if you're in that 150 to 500, maybe you're even at $1 million and not paying yourself, I don't know. But if you're in that range, if you're in business and you're not paying yourself, it's not because your clients won't pay it. It's not because the market you can't sell the jobs. It's literally one thing and one thing only, and that is your mindset and what you believe about yourself and what your worth is. That's the only difference.
Cool. Okay. Before we sign off here, I want to come back to the beginning, that link that we talked about, those calls that free consulting call that we talked about on the previous episode. You got a few calls, and And I just want to bring up or ask you to bring up one of the examples, because I just want to drive home for the listeners here how much of a no-brainer this is. And I'm not saying that I have nothing to gain from this. I have no incentive to driving people to book a call with you to consult on their budget. I just want to, I'm being completely honest here. I just like helping people succeed and make more money. That's what motivates me. This is one of those things that right now, that link is there. You can click it, you can book a call, and you can get free consultation on your budget and make sure that you're pointing the ship in the right direction. And now's a great time to do that, because it'll give you November, December, January, February to figure out what to fix before the season starts.
100%.
So just give me one example from those calls that came in from the last episode.
So I'll give you an example of two business partners that were 50-50 in their business. I think they might have been in their second summer of doing work, and they were doing nice hardscapes, nice work, working insane hours, not paying themselves hardly anything at all. And they just came on and were kind of telling me about their situation. And so I just opened up my screen. We went into, I just started slapping information into this budget thing. And the cool thing about doing this on the screen is you can't see the end result. You're just plugging numbers in, and you can't see the end result until you click over to the last tab. So it forces you to not have some for bias as you're plugging these numbers in.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not bullshitting the answer to oh, I see. Okay, well,
yeah.
50,000. Okay, yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
The lies we tell ourselves. Yeah.
So as I just started asking them questions, we figured out what their cost, how many hours they work in a season, and production, and how many what they pay, what they would want to pay themselves, and what their overhead expenses were. And we just plugged all this stuff in, and they were leaning in, really interested in this math. And I flipped over to the last slide, and actually, before I did that, I asked them, what do you really want to pay yourself? I'm not asking you what you are paying yourself. What do you want to pay yourself? Because you should budget for the business you want to be, not the business you are today. And so we plugged that number in, flipped over, and we saw a number, I think in the 90s, in the $90 a man hour range, which was more than, they were having head trash about the rate they were charging, which I forget what it was. I think it was maybe 60 something, if I have that, I could be remembering it wrong.
Yeah, and that's on the absolute lowest end. We covered that in the last one.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when they saw that, so if I would have opened the call and said, if I'd have had the information and I would have said, hey, you need to be charging yourself $90 an hour, I would have believed that. They would not have believed that. But they gave me the numbers that I plugged in. I didn't influence anything other than telling them they need to budget for what they want to be, not what they are. And we flipped over to the last screen, and when they saw that number, they're like, yeah, that's it. We can't do it for any less than that. That's what it's got to be. And so the point I want to make is they flipped. Remember my earlier point about it's all between your ears? And whether they flipped from saying we can never charge that much to we have to.
We have to.
There's no alternative.
Yeah. And once it's you have to, you got to get creative. I think that was the second episode was with Oasis Landscapes down in the Southeast. I think they're in Virginia or Maryland.
Yep.
I always mix up exactly where they are, but you know what I'm talking about. And Alex Musha, at the time, he was 23, had been running his business, and they were already doing $2 million, and they had been operating him for 2 years, I think. He opened at 21 years old. I was so impressed with this guy. And I said, how do you do it? He's like, I had someone when I was younger tell me, just commit, then get creative. And it's exactly that. Once I have to charge at least $90, I'm going to get creative on how I'm going to charge $90.
Yeah.
So I need to get more creative with my designs. I need to find better clients. I need to have a better sales process so that I close more of the deals that I want.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the rest of the business starts to make sense, and this is what I need to prioritize because this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't take the time to do that, you're wandering in the woods in the dark. It's just you could make it, you could not, and it's not worth it. Not for all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into it already. take the time, make the call, get the numbers in front of your face. Even if you have it dialed in, why not double check? What do you got to lose here?
Yeah.
It's a half hour call?
Yeah.
An hour at most?
Yeah. It's booked for half an hour. But
for free?
We went, yeah.
Like,
I think I ended up spending
and you're probably shortchanging yourself because like I don't know how you have the time to take all these calls. You're running your own business here. You're doing your own podcast, The Cost of Doing Business. You have your events that you've been doing. You're all over the country all the time. Every time I see you on social media, you're somewhere else, and you're still taking the time to sit down with people for free to consult on their business.
Well,
I don't know how someone cannot take advantage of this opportunity. It's too good to be true. Just take it. It's there.
Yeah, and what was so cool about these two fellas is, well, what was crazy is they were leaning in and were like, well, how do we get access to this software that, that I was using to do the math? And so I was like, well, yeah, here it is. Here's the pricing, and they're like, you could see the mental, like, value association, and like they were having to struggle with that, and they didn't sign up, and which was fine. Like, cool. At least they had the number they needed. That was my goal for the call.
Yeah.
And later, we just did our contractor summit here in Pennsylvania 2 weeks ago, and they came.
There you go.
And after sitting in on all the speakers that we had and all the content that we had, they did sign up. And I have nothing but confidence that they are going to reap the reward of that investment tenfold. Literally, it happens every year. Like last year, a guy was in a very similar situation, not charging enough. He told me he didn't even have enough money to put gas in his truck to go to the job site.
That's ridiculous.
And this year, he signed up for SynkedUp at last year's event, and this year he's at 30% net.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much great education and learning opportunities that exist, like, events like yours, free events like ours, like Hardscaper Showcase and Hardscaper Summit coming up next year. And you're going to be at pretty much all of them too. But there's just so much that you need to use the off season, just like any professional athlete does.
Yes.
Like they're not floating around. They take a little vacation because you need that, but they're getting out there and they're developing their skills and they're strengthening themselves. And you should be doing the same thing for yourself and for your business, and get as many people, get your number 2 and your number 3 and your number 4 involved in these things. So they're bought in on the whole thing. They're not just bought in on cashing a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks. They're bought in on this thing that we're building together. And you're the leader of it, but they're key players in it, and they buy in and they believe it and they want to contribute. And that's when it's fun and it's rewarding, and like you're not in it on your own and you're building this whole great thing, and you get different opinions and you get different visions, and it gives you a lot more perspective on where you could go.
Yeah.
And that's why, bringing your people together and involving them in things. I just look at the success that we have here at TechoBlock, and like we have every single director at this company started in an entry-level role and worked their way up. And it's because we were given the opportunities to have a seat at the table in some meeting at some point. And we're like, hey, can I help more with this thing? I have some ideas. And boom, 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 boom. And now, we're a 1,000-person company, and it's all led from people who grew from within. And there's no reason why you can't do the same thing with your own company if that's what you want to do.
100%. And literally what you're describing happened at TechoBlock is exactly what happened at Tussey Landscaping, where I worked for 15 years. When I started there, they had been in business for 16 or 17 years and were 700 and some thousand in revenue. After 16, 17 years in business, which a lot of you are in your business for 3 years and you're like, why am I not a millionaire yet? So, but
it's a bit of a grind.
They are now over 6 million in revenue, which is 15, 17 years later. And literally the difference in the first 17 years and the last 17 years was exactly what you said, is people grew from within. Steve, the owner, was willing to like, you know what? I'm not the best at this. I'm going to let this guy has a vision and a dream for the sales process. I'm going to let him run with it. And getting that buy-in and developing those number 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, and that's literally the difference. And we live in an economy today, in the age of the internet, where knowledge is no longer the bottleneck. It used to be like, oh, I didn't know that this is how the math had to work, or I didn't know this is how marketing worked.
You can't claim ignorance anymore.
No,
it's there.
Knowledge is not the bottleneck. In fact, it's almost the opposite. It's like there's knowledge.
It's too much.
Yeah, it's almost too much. And you're like, who do I listen to? But
us.
But the difference is the difference between the folks that struggle and the ones that actually make it are the ones that take action. The ones that make a decision and commit and make that decision, make that execution at 110%. You can make the wrong decision and execute it at 110% and still make it.
Yeah. It may not be the optimal one.
Yeah.
But it still moved you forward.
Like, what's that quote? I forget. I'm going to butcher it. There's a quote that says something about even a poor plan violently executed would deliver some form of success. Something along those lines.
Yeah, you definitely butchered it. And I don't know but I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's that. It's you make a plan and you execute it. You take that action and you give yourself that no choice. Exactly with the $90. We have to.
Yeah.
We have to do it. And once you've made that commitment, then you figure things out. And if everyone knows this is the direction we're going, we are on the ship on the ocean. We have to get across. There's no turning back. We're always past the point of no return. If that's the mentality, then man, you're going to make it.
Yeah.
But you need to get people involved, and you need to pay yourself, because otherwise, what's the motivation of doing it?
That's right. And don't tell them which direction to steer the ship. Just tell them where you're trying to get to.
That's right.
You know,
give them that point.
Give them the North Star.
That's it.
They'll figure it out.
Okay, man. That's good. It's good. It's a good mix of actual facts and a million cliches.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good one. All right. We're going to put the link for that call booking in the show notes here. So open the Spotify app or Apple iTunes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, just go click on the show more if you don't see it, but you should see it. And if you don't see it, click on show more. You'll see the link. Click the link. It'll give you a calendar booking page. Pick a date, pick a time, and take advantage of this free offer, because I mean, you can't get better than this.
Yep.
Free consultation from somebody who has visibility over hundreds of people in your shoes across North America. Cool?
Yep.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining us on the show, Wes. And until next time, everybody, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next week on the show. You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.